Singapore's Education Ministry is working with the advertising sector on a code of conduct for tuition centres. It is looking to curb unethical advertising by black sheep of the industry. In an interview with CNA, Education Minister Chan Chun Sing says some tuition centres are playing on parents' fears, using unethical ways to get students.
Singapore households spent $1.8 billion on private tuition in 2023, up from $1.4 billion in 2018. While the industry has grown, so has concerns about the tactics tuition agencies use to get more clients.
P1, first day of school, one of these tuition centre stood outside one of my school and gave out flyers. So my principal went out and gave them a piece of our mind. Because it's totally unnecessary. P1, there's no exams. Instead of inculcating the joy of learning, you are handing out flyers to the parents to create this fear of missing out.
Some tuition centres pick and choose their students to boost the centre's image.
They pre-select the students and then they claim credit. And I think it's most unethical, and I think it does a disservice to the whole image of a teacher. And I don't like people who use their students to advertise their services when they might, from what we know, given so-called a discount or enticement to the students. I think all these are unnecessary.
Mr. Chan says that because the ministry serves all Singaporeans regardless of background, it is not right for agencies to claim credit for their work. He says the ministry is currently in talks with the advertising authority on what can be done.
We are talking to the advertising industry to see whether we can have a code of conduct, if you like, on what is right to do and what is wrong to do, for the sake of the own industry, the advertising industry, because you just give a bad name to the whole industry if we allow this to fester.
Ultimately, the goal is to make education accessible, regardless of financial ability. Mr. Chan noted that this was a collective effort and that Singaporeans should not feel that they can succeed only because of household wealth.
We are pushing out more resources, making available more resources to the students and the parents, because I want every child and every parent in Singapore to know we have an education system that do not depend on your means. If someone like me can be brought up by the system, I want to make sure that every generation, someone like me can make a positive contribution and realize their full potential.
This idea of equality extends to alumni networks too. He noted that the system helps to build the local community and school spirit, especially in the past when communities were less established. However, he cautioned against going overboard. And this applies to both so-called elite and non-elite schools.
But the alumni system cannot be to the detriment of the cohesion of a society, where you start forming, never mind elite or not elite, forming what I call close communities. Then that doesn't do good for that school and its community, and it doesn't do good for the country.
He says schools must be open and accessible to a certain number of students in order to promote social mixing. That said, there were some positive trends, with more alumni of so-called elite schools contributing to other schools. Positive examples included ACS Barker being willing to move to serve a different community, or tapping alumni networks to uplift others. The ministry affirms its support for these efforts.
In Singapore today, it's not just about the financial resources that we need to share around, it's also about the networks, the opportunities that we give to people. So, there are schools who think that they want to serve a wider or perhaps more challenging communities, and we'll be happy to work with them to do so.
Mr. Chan says that the goal is to keep society open and accessible to those from different backgrounds and prevent exclusive communities.
In the interview, Minister Chan also touched on efforts to protect school teachers. This after his ministry's commitment last year to take firm action against unreasonable behaviour or harassment towards educators, especially when it comes from parents.
There's a protocol, and there is a care team, and on top of that, some of the very vexatious cases, we have dedicated teams in MOE to try and manage this. Because it's not fair, not every school is going to be equipped to handle lawyer letters, police reports and things like that.
Mr. Chan adds that such abusive behavior is also unfair to other students and parents who are deprived of the teacher's attention. Now, he says that over time, the ministry needs to set expectations on the relationship between parents and teachers. This to protect teachers' mental well-being and work-life balance.
It is not a service client mindset where I expect this and you deliver to me, because no matter what we do in schools is only that many hours. 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever it might be. The larger part of time is with the families. And someone reminded me recently that we as parents, we are all the first teachers of our children. And that partnership must continue.